Welcome back to Garza Gaming Channel. Today we're going to talk about the bonus update for 9.5, man. They did a few little tweaks here and there, and I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But hey, man, without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. Now the bonus update is coming out Tuesday, May 31st, right? So let's get into it, right? So items, right? So before we get into the items, one of the statements that they made is after the 9.5 update actually went into effect, they saw that in Conquest that warriors were a lot weaker than any of the other classes, right? They feel that the 9.5 update actually hurt warriors and buffed hunters. We also seen that same buffage in arena, right? So the hunters right now in arena are super strong. In fact, you actually see a lot of comps with 2 hunters in their groups as of late, ever since the 9.5 update. Now, as far as arena goes, I do not agree with the fact that warriors are weaker. In fact, in arena, warriors are a lot stronger, just due to the added protections they have and their hit point base, right? Now, I would agree that hunter against warrior type combat, that the hunters right now definitely have the upper hand. But as far as the statement that warriors are weak by enemies, at least in the arena, you know what I'm saying, is totally false. Now, I can't speak for Conquest or neither of the modes, but as y'all know, all we care about is arena, right? So let's get into the items, man. So Gladiator Shield, right? So the passive bonus damage now applies to guys at all percentages, not just under 60, right? So that's pretty cool. And they also increase the bonus damage scaling from that they get from protections from 25% to 35%. So they boosted up by 10. You get 10% more damage scaling for, you know, your protections that you have, which is really going to be really big, not just for warriors but for also for guardians. And see, that's a little sticky point too, man. As they try to buff warriors by trying to buff a lot of the items that warriors use, in a sense, that's also going to affect guardians, right? So it's going to allow a lot of players in arena, instead of rolling with, you know, dual warriors, they're going to probably start ending up rolling with dual guardians and using some of these buffed up items in their build to make a assault type build, you know, instead of a real tank build, build more like a bruiser or assault type build. So we're going to see what happens, man. I'm very curious to see what happens, you know, early next month after, you know, the 31st, when this patch goes live, to see how crazy it's going to get in arena, right? But let's continue here. Blackthorn's hammer. So they increased the physical power scaling from 25 to 35. So it looks like they pretty much just reverted to where it was before. Breastplate of Valor increased the physical protections from 55 to 65. Okay, so they beefed that, so it's pretty good again. Breastplate of Determination. They increased the physical protections from 55 to 65. Breastplate of Vigilance. Increased the physical protections from 55 to 65. Okay, so you're seeing the trend here, right? So they're actually beefing up physical protections in order to help guardians and warriors counter against hunters, because as you all know, warriors and guardians right now are pretty much supermen when it comes against mages, especially early to mid game, until they actually started building up their penetrations, right? But unfortunately, hunters can shred through them from early game, because none of the really high end or readily used items for hunters that give them either shred or pen really got nerfed much, right? So yeah, so now that what they're trying to do is try to make warriors a little bit beefier, a little bit more resilient against hunters or assassins early to mid game. So that's what it looks like here. So Spectral Armor, they increase the damage mitigation on critical strikes from 30 to 40%. So they increase, you know, so now if somebody crits on somebody that's wearing the Spectral Armor, they're going to do 10% less damage. You know what I'm saying? Whereas before, you know, this mitigated 30% of a crit. So if you crit for 1,000, you're only going to do 700 points of damage. Now, if you crit, you're actually only going to do 600 points of damage. So that's what they're talking about. You're going to get 40% more protections against critical strikes. So that's going to be pretty good, I guess. Hide of the Lehman. So they increase the damage mitigation on a block attack from 50 to 65%. Dude, that's going to be huge for freaking Hercules, dude. Hercules using this item is just ridiculous. I mean, Hercules is already ridiculous trying to get down, but when you start incorporating stuff that have block like this, yeek. Okay, so here we go with the hunter nerfs, right? Or so they say hunter nerfs. Now, keep in mind that all these changes have not arena. All these changes have conquest in mind, right? So I really do not think that these changes that we're going to talk about are going to affect arena much, to tell you the truth. So they're saying that hunters are really strong right now. So what they ended up doing is nerfing them in their gold, lifesteal, and crit, right? So the Gilded Arrow, they actually decreased the gold gain from 7 to 3 per trigger, right? And they're hoping that by doing this, it's going to allow hunters to build a lot slower, so they're more in line with everybody else on the playing field. Now, yeah, I can see this in Conquest, but in Arena, I don't think it's really going to affect anybody much, to tell you the truth. And the Spike Gauntlet, they decreased the lifesteal on this from 7% to 5%. The Curse Gauntlet, they decreased the lifesteal from 10% to 7%. And Devour's Gauntlet to decrease the lifesteal from 15% to 10% and decrease the lifesteal per stack from 0.3% to 0.2%. So they decrease from 15% to 10% at max stacks, decreasing the total item lifesteal from 30% to 20%. And keep in mind that these are just level 1, level 2, or level 2, level 3 of the actual Devour's Gauntlets, right? Now, I do not see many hunters using this in arena. I can see this probably in a conquest hunter, but I don't see too many hunters in arena actually using Devour's Gauntlets. So I really don't think that's going to affect us much. Now, what is going to affect us is the fact that they're also nerfing Deathbringer. And Deathbringer is pretty much one of the go-to items for any crit build, whether it be a hunter build, an assassin build, right? Or anybody else that wants to build it, to tell you the truth, but those are the two main ones. And they decreased the critical damage from 30% to 25%. So they took away 5% critical damage on Deathbringer. Is that going to be earth-shaking? No, it's not, dude. You probably won't even feel the difference, to tell you the truth. Now, the malicious Deathbringer, they decreased the critical damage from 30% to 25%. Yeah, we just talked about that, right? But here's where it takes a little bit of a turn is in Venom Deathbringer. They also got the 5% less crit, right? But they also decrease the damage output debuff. So that debuff you get with the poison from 15% to 10%. So not only did they nerf the crit that you get from Deathbringer, but they also nerfed the freaking debuff that you get from the Venom Deathbringer by 5%. So that's a pretty significant nerf for those that use Venom Deathbringer for sure. Now, this is something that kind of threw me for a loop. Out of all the gods that they decided to nerf, they actually nerfed Kleena, right? So for Kleena, her Banshee will, they decreased the base damage of her first 2 hits from 35, 50, 65, 80, and 95 to 30, 45, 60, 75, and 90. So it looks like they just took 5 base damage across the board down, right? And then decreased the base damage on their final hit from 70, 110, 150, 190, and 230 to 60, 100, 140, 180, and 220. So they took away 10 across the board on that one. So this is a total damage from 140, 210, 280, 350, and 420 to 120. Just say 20 across the board and just make it easy. I don't even know why they go through that. They took 20 across the board off for the total Banshees will. That's what they did. Now, the Flickering Vision, they decreased the base damage from 90, 145, 200, 255, and 310 to 70, 125, 180, 235, and 290. So late game, looks like they took away 20 base damage from Flickering Visions. And that's pretty much it that came with a bonus update, man. I'm very, very surprised, to tell you the truth. I was really expecting hunters to get hit a lot harder. Because I'm telling you right now, one of the main, and I've played a lot of games since 9.5 came out, let me tell you. I think we did a bunch of streams too. But one of the biggest things that I'm seeing in Arena right now, post 9.5, is the fact that people are taking advantage of the extra hit points and protections that came with 9.5. A lot of groups now, where before it was the meta group of, chain CC teams, all the chain CC gods, and trying to, do those perfectly timed chain CC attacks. That is still a thing. But what I've been noticing even more is 2 hunter groups. You have groups that come in with 2 hunters, 2 heavy guardians or 2 heavy warriors. Mostly I've been seeing a heavy guardians that have some sort of CC, like a Ymir. Bacchus has been used a lot. Actually, those are the 2 main big ones I've been seeing a lot more of is Ymir and Bacchus. Of course, you can use your Ares too, but yeah, man, the 2 ones that the really reoccurring groups that I've been seeing of late have been Bacchus Ymir types, or a Hercules Ymir, or Hercules Ymir and Bacchus, with a couple of hunters. It looks like hunters are playing front street, whereas before you'd see a lot of 2 mages in the group. Now you're seeing 2 hunters in the group more than mages. I've seen a lot of groups where it's 2 heavy guardians, 2 hunters, and then 1 mage. And the 1 mage is usually like a AoE type mage, whether it be a Zeus or a Kukulkan. And those have been some really formidable groups to go against, to tell you the truth. Of course, the chain CC pre-mades are always going to be a pain in the butt, but now because of the 9.5 updates, now we got another pain in the butt. That's, especially if you play a mage, because I'm telling you right now, mages early to mid game, man, are doing so little damage to these tanks and these warriors that are built heavy, right? And I'm not talking about damage as in point wise, as in actually moving their health bar, because I've noticed that I'm still doing the same amount of damage at the end of the game when you look at our stats. My player damage are the same, if not higher, and minion damage, of course, is a lot higher. But during the actual game, I hit somebody, say, for 500 points of damage, and their health bar, which would have went to half, pre 9.5, only moves by a quarter of that. I mean, it's just craziness. But hey, man, that's pretty much all the changes for the bonus 9.5 update. Now, who knows, man? In 9.6, maybe we'll see hunters get nerfed even more. And don't get me wrong, man, I love hunters and I love mages. Those are my 2 favorite classes. So I don't want to see any type of knee-jerk effect where they just like totally nerf hunters and make them pretty much obsolete, right? But I think they do need to do a little something, because if not, like I said, it's just going to be a pain in the butt to try to play mages, because you're just going to get shredded by hunters early game every single time, especially when people start playing 2 to 3 hunters in a group at one time. They're just going to wreak chaos early to mid game for sure. But hey, man, again, that's bonus 9.5. Hey, what do you think about this bonus? Do you think that the little tweaks they did to the 9.5 were good enough? Do you think they over tweaked the warrior items, or do you think that it's lacking and they missed a bunch? Hey, if you think they missed something or something they should have changed, put it down in the comments down below. I love to hear your feedback on this, right? Again, I mostly main mages and hunters, so I'm kind of biased when it comes to a lot of these changes, right? So I'd really like to hear your feedback for you warrior mains and you guardians, man. And again, if this is the first time checking out our videos, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, man. We got over 500 videos in our YouTube video library just like this. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'm Garza, your OG on the GC. See you next time.